Hi, I'm Brent Mason. Welcome to my first Hot Licks video, and I'm going to be talking about a lot of guitar stuff, Telecaster playing, styles of Telecaster playing, studio situations, and how you would approach that. I guess first we'll just tune up so everybody can get in tune. That's an E. If everybody's got a tuner like I got, that's A440. Let me check mine. Thought I was in tune. Okay, that's E. So anyway, we're going to get into some Telecaster style playing, which I do a lot of that on a lot of records in town. Alan Jackson, like Chattahoochee was a big hit. I'm in Love with You Baby, I Don't Even Know Your Name was full of picking from everybody. And I basically did that chicken picking Telecaster style stuff where I do a lot of using your index finger. You pop the strings from underneath, and it gives you that real funky, wiry sound, you know, like. That kind of gives that chicken picking thing, but I've used that a lot, and you can use, you know, going to rhythms like that. I mean, like basically, I'll do that. You know, the solos, but first of all, I'll lay down a rhythm track or something, and I kind of give it a funky little rotating rhythm part that goes around the chords, like something like. So you see what I kept that little thumping chicken picking thing, you know, especially bending down that E string, you know, starting off the one, you know, like with a little eighth note pickup, I guess, starting into the downbeat of the rhythm, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like that, and I always use this first finger to get, you know, the meat of the finger actually right here to get the real popping sound, you know, that you need for that that style. And also incorporating that in that rhythm stuff, I also do double stops in there too. So I'm using the first finger under the string, popping up on it, while simultaneously I'm using the index finger, which I've got these fake fingernails on there right now, which you probably noticed. They give me just a little bit of edge up here to grab the string. They're not real long and fragile, but just enough to you know, get the pop string, gives them strength. And I'll double stop, you know, notice I'm hitting these simultaneously. So like that, you can see that I'm doing that. And that usually covers the rhythm part. It gives a real funky bass rhythm throughout the song, and it kind of sets the groove for the whole tune. And then taking a solo approach in a chicken picking type song, I use a lot of open strings. I use a lot of open strings, a lot of hammer-ons, hammer-offs, you know, open strings being, you know, stuff like. That's one real fast for an instant. See, that's an A. If we're in G or something, I might use it, or D, let's say D, which I might use a. Sorry. Yeah, that goes kind of from point A to point B, spans down to the low third of the D. Starts up here on the A note, like that, and then the one in A went. So that's a lot of that's pretty much entirely open strings. Now I'll incorporate that into a solo with some hammer-ons and hammer-offs, and you know, like, you know, back in the old Buck Owens was doing records back in the early days, you know, with Don Rich playing those Telecaster parts. He was using a lot of those double stops with hammer-ons and off, you know, the old. You know, so that's what I mean. That all started back then, and we just kind of elaborated on it later. And I'll use those pull-offs like that. So I'll go. See, we're playing an A. I mean, A seems to be a favorite key for Telecaster playing, but I'll play in A for a while, and using these pull-offs and open strings. See, that's real cool. I'm hitting two strings at once. I'm starting, you know, middle finger on the E note, second fret, and the A there, and playing a chromatic scale down. It gives it a real cool, bluesy, funky sound, like that. And so using a lot of those open strings, like say if we were going through A, D, and E, you know, I might just let one flow like, you know, like that. That kind of went through A, D, and E. It's like, you know, so it's almost kind of bluegrassy. You know how bluegrass players play a lot of, if they're playing in G, they'll use a, you know, use those kind of open strings and stuff. And I do that a lot. It just makes a solo sound interesting that way, rather than just playing scales. You know, it's a lot funner to play the open hammer-ons and offs. So I use that a lot in chicken picking, and I also do some stuff like if we're in G, you know, little half-tone hammer-ons. It just kind of makes a solo stand out that way. It kind of twists the ear a little bit, and it's kind of cool. Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking through a G7 there. And that's kind of cool, and I'll use that. And also chicken picking, I kind of think in group like triads, like if I was in G, sorry. I'll think in that triad, which is like a, you know, a F over G. So I can block those licks off like. You know. Sort of like that, give or take a few bad notes. So, and I think also I hear it seems like I'm playing. I love to play triplets in songs. Let's say if it's got a groove like, you know, a little standard. You know, basically playing, sliding into some pentatonic scales or whatever. That's pretty fast for that. Let me slow that down. Right, there's one where I did a hammer off of an open string. So basically on a lick like that, that's in G, I'm starting on a C note and down a whole step to a B flat and using a triplet. So I'm hammering off of that. And then on the fourth string, I'm going from a G to a F and hammering off of that to a D, open D. And then following on down to the next string, an A string, I'm hammering off a C sharp to a C. Hammering off, you know, bouncing off an open string, basically. Which is a triplet, you know, a couple sets of triplets there. So I might... see, I might use that in a, you know, that kind of a rhythmical approach to a solo, part of a chicken picking thing. But a lot of my Telecaster stuff come from, I listen a lot to Jerry Reed. Jerry Reed played a lot of Telecaster stuff, more than you would realize. I know he played a lot of gut string parts and stuff like that, and a lot of polyphonic kind of licks, you know, the old, you know, those things, ascending and descending, and E, those cool things like that. And then Reed had a lot of chicken picking double stops. You know, he would play a more of a, like a, let's see, like a, if we were like, you know, he would play more with that, that kind of a rhythm approach. So, I mean, so if we were going like D, or rather, so I listen to Reed a lot, and I also listen to Roy Nichols a lot from Merle Haggard's band, The Strangers. Roy had a knack for playing interesting notes inside his chicken picking scales. He might play if we're in A, he might go. You know, little things like, silly things like that will catch your ear, and bending up from interesting notes like from an augmented, you know, like up to a 6 of the chord, a 6th note of the chord. And he would do a lot of those, you know, that kind of chicken picking. Roy Nichols, and so I mean, basically I stole from a lot of people and sort of interpreted them in my own way and came up with my own stuff, but we all steal from the good guys. Roy Nichols, James Burton, all those guys did that chicken picking thing so well and really inspired me. And you know, like Jerry Reed once said, it's more like I'm a guitar thinker rather than a guitar player. Reed thought that's how way he explained his playing. And that's kind of what I do in a solo. I kind of think of little tricks and twists that make the solo stand out. You know, and Reed always did rhythms like turning the low string down, and he would play bass parts simultaneously with some kind of, you know, rhythm on top, like see, it had that on top while he was doing it. Anyway, Reed would do that a lot, and he would think up this crazy stuff, and he would play it. I think you'd put it down on record, and he'd never play it again. He'd say, "I played that. That's been played." And some people would ask him to play instrumentals, and he said, "You know, once I put them down, I never do them again." So I listened to a lot of those guys and developed a chicken picking style. And like on the Alan Jackson song, I guess it was "I'm in Love with You, Baby, but I don't even know your name." I did a lot of crazy tricks. I would use this kind of thing, which is a real fun thing to play in A. The song was in A, by the way. It was it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I'm bouncing off this F sharp all the time, which is a 6th note of the chord, and then I lift up off of this here and off of the A note, which makes it a natural 7. So so it's alternating there. So then you can go as fast as you want. See, so I would come into that, and that's kind of a little trick. Or you can, another cool thing with that, you can take the 3 note of the chord and suss it while you're doing that lick, and it's really cool. Like that. And that's the fast way of doing it. I can't even do it slow. like that, and that's really cool, and I used that in there. And there was another thing where I mentioned open strings and chicken picking and half-tone hammer-ons and off, and I did a kind of a weird lick, which was which I kind of clawed. I call that claw on two, or double stops, where you pick up and there's an open string on top, which kind of gives it an interesting sound, a plucky sound. Plus, it has that open droning string on top. So, oh, by the way, I was going to show you. I hate to jump back, but I just thought of something on those open strings. Basically, when you learn those things, you kind of get a good repertoire of open strings, and you would play them in an A chord, or have a good few of them for a G chord and D. I think I did A and D earlier, and G is a cool one. I think Chet Atkins might give him credit for. Is instead of in a bluegrass manner where we'd play the like that, he would play like, and make them more legato with open strings, which is cool. See, that's another open string lick in G. 1 and E might be, which is kind of a banjo-esque type lick, and that's 1 and E. Now I might, using my own style, I would kind of play that one like, incorporate that with double stops and pull-offs. That was kind of crooked. So all that combined, you would get a solo, and I don't really plan on. I don't play for like 2 bars and say, well, I'm going to come up on this lick. I try to let it all flow, and sometimes it's your brain can get clouded up with all that information. So I kind of let it flow, and sometimes I couldn't tell you exactly the licks I play, but that's the mentality of it, is flipping off strings and open strings and all that. So I might. Well, that's a cool one right there. See, earlier on I told you about. Now you can make a triplet out of that by flipping off the F sharp, E, and D, and coming down to C sharp. It's actually a scale, So that's real cool to do when you're. And I would do that. And also, chicken picking, you'd keep in mind you're doing all those double stops with bends on them. So you think of different groups, like you're bending up to the 3rd there from the 2 note. So you go, and you're going up, so that's bending up, you got a 7 on top. You're bending up from a sus4 to a 5 note there. So you go. So there you got an E on top, and you're bending from the 7 to this note here, or from the B flat to the C. So you got. Then see how we get. I missed it. And you can keep going on those. So you got all these, and then you go up to a G. So you can climb with them. See, all the way up. You use those a lot in chicken picking. And oh, by the way, I put a new bender on here that I'm trying to get used to. I thought I'd add a little dimension to my playing, put a string bender on there, and I got to get used to thinking that remembering it's on there. So I'll, you know, you can do a lot of cool things. You know, use those movements. Oh, hey, let me talk about my guitar for a minute. The pickup situation on this is I got a Seymour Duncan in the back, and it's like a vintage style pickup. And actually, he's taken Joe Glazer, who is a guy that builds guitars in town. He works, so it does all the work on my guitars. So he talked to Seymour Duncan, and they kind of made a hybrid. He made a hybrid pickup. The bottom half of this is from a different, like an Alnico 2, I believe, and I don't remember what he's done, but he put two different pickups together, one for the low end. I wanted a little more wiry bite on the low end, and when I did that on a regular pickup, if I put too much treble where it'd sound good down here, it got a little trebly up there, so I thought maybe I could, by putting these two pickups together, it was a little more delicate on the treble end down here. So this is two different pickups split up, and God knows how they did it, or how Seymour done it. Sort of a Frankenstein pickup. Now this one in the middle I had put in a long time ago when I was playing in a club in Nashville here at Stagecoach Lounge on Murfreesboro Road. This is the only guitar I had. I got bunches of guitars, but I want to make this an all-around sounding guitar. So I had Joe put this middle pickup in, which is a Seymour Duncan stack. It's double coils are stacked. And in the middle, and then there's an extra volume knob right here for that pickup, which I turn on. Now if I had, say my toggle switch was back like this, I would turn these two on. I mean, I would turn this wide open, and supposedly that'd be like a out-of-phase Strat, which it doesn't, you know, it doesn't sound like it. Pretty close, but not like a real Strat. But back then, that was a way to get my Strat sound, because, like I said, it's the only guitar I had. So, and actually, the cool thing about that, I've kept this system on here because now it acts more as an EQ kind of thing for the back pickup. I'll bleed. The cool thing about this volume pot is I bleed a little in of this pickup, and it kind of takes the high mid-range out of the bridge pickup. See? It's real sensitive to area here, but when it gets about right here, it starts the Strat, the full volume of the pickup comes on. So about right here, it takes a little, it's real subtle, but it takes it out. It's kind of cool. Anyway, when I turn the knob off, then the volume of the pickup's off. So if I switch it in the front pickup, then I've got totally the front pickup. And then I turn that on, that's turning these pickups on together. It's a combination of these two when I turn this knob on. You know. So I got these two together. I turn it off, and I just got totally the front pickup. So it's kind of a cool way, this guitar setup, and in the fact that I can bleed a little of that pickup on with each, bleed a little of the middle pickup on with each pickup, front and back. And then of course if the toggle switch is in the middle, and then I got this wide open, this volume knob for this pickup, then of course they're all on. Turn it off, it's front and the back, and blah blah blah. So it's kind of cool that way. And this guitar, by the way, it's not very pretty. It's like a primer coat. It never was painted, in case everybody was wondering. everybody that I've talked to see me on television or something, hey, that's a really cool silver guitar you got there. It's kind of blue. It's got a blue in it, doesn't it? It's really cool. And I go, well, it's just really an ugly gray. It's collected cigarette smoke from the clubs and all that stuff. And it just, the guitar, when I got it probably about 10 years, about 12, 13 years ago, 14 maybe, it had such a great sound, I never did want to paint the guitar. I mean, I figured that would ruin the sound of it, so I left it like it is, as is. And gauges of strings I use, I got a custom gauge strings on here. I use a 9 on top. I use an 11 in second string. A third, I use a 16. And fourth string, I use a 24. And this is where it starts changing, 34, 44. I guess that's the different, not the standard on the low end. Because I get a little meat out of the lower strings like that, you know, for the, and you know, I mean, really, you would only bend a low string up a whole step like this. Very seldom would you have to go up any higher than that. And so I get a lot of power from that string, from having that extra couple millimeters on there. Sometimes it even sounds like a baritone guitar or a 6-string Dan Electro type sound because of the heavy, just a little bit heavier on the low end. So that's the gauges I use on this guitar. And like I said before, I had different pickups in here because I might, when I was out in a club, if I want to get a jazzier tone, this is in the front, I've got a Les Paul Baby Humbucking. A Les Paul Jr. No, it wouldn't be a Les Paul Jr. Yeah, Baby Humbucking in the front. So it'll give me a Les Paul, you know, smoother, you know, a real pretty sound. Give me a nice jazzy, sweet kind of sound. And so I kind of got the best of both worlds here, I mean, or of all worlds. When I had this one guitar in the club, I switched from the mellow tone to the back pickup and all that, or you know, it sounded good with distortion. Well, I guess I don't have much distortion on there. One thing I wanted to go over is a little chicken picking part. Is Don Rich, who played with Buck Owens. He had this little muted lick, which went, and I think the way he did it, of course, I play with a thumb pick, as you notice. He played with a straight pick, I think, and he muted it with the back of his hand. I think, I don't know exactly how he did it, but had the little triplet thing with the top note ringing out. One was muted, the other one obviously rings out. Now I do those too, only I do it, I think I'm muting, yeah, I'm just now learning how I do this. I mute this right here. And it's almost like I half press down on them, which mutes it. I don't do it with the back of my hand, because sometimes I want to get to them real fast. If I'm playing real fast and I want to get to that lick, it's really hard. You know. See, it's just a lot smoother for me that way. I don't have to drop my hand down, and I haven't perfected it. It just works for me. I mean, that's. And also I do that with double stops. Like now, when I do them on a low string, I do mute it because my hand is laying that way. Since I'm playing with a thumb pick, that's the position of my hand. So I do mute that string with the back of my hand, and I'll play double stops on top, which those will be, you know, legato, and this will be staccato here. And I find, yeah, I guess I'm using my ring finger with my thumb pick, and the ring finger just seems to come up at an angle that's effective for doing that. and it's like I'm playing the da 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 da. That's the downbeat. Da 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 ba da 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 ba. So I'm playing the pickups. Da da da. Playing 3 16th triplets or whatever it is. I'm playing ring finger, thumb, ring finger. So that's how it works for me. So anyway, that's that. All the old Telecaster guys use that. It comes in pretty handy, and it's and I have to give credit to Don Rich for that. And a lot of the you'll use the harmonic thing. I do that a little different too, by the way. Because I play with a thumb pick, I'll play these. I'll play the thumb pick and the first finger simultaneously. I'll downstroke on the thumb and come up on the first finger, so the actual harmonic is coming from the thumb pick. It's creating that that little whistle harmonic kind of thing. Which sometimes it works good with the distortion. So that kind of works cool, and getting on the harmonic thing by creating the harmonic with that. That's the rough rock and roll way. I mean, you're actually getting the grit out of that harmonic. Now the sweet harmonics, I didn't learn those when I was back in Ohio. I'm from Ohio. I was trying to figure out how in the heck did Lenny Breau and those guys getting at those harmonics. These. I could not figure out how to do that. This is something you can't decipher by ear, because there was so much ringing notes and harmonics going, and there was just a cluster of harmonics. And I didn't find out how to do that till I got to Nashville. I mean, I had to get one-on-one with a guitar player, and as a guitar player, a session player in town, Greg Galbraith showed me how to do those, and it really opened up my thought to that. And these, and I guess I don't know if Lenny Breau done these the same way as me, but I'm using my little finger and the nail of it to pick while I'm playing the harmonic up here. And it's actually more of an illusion. Not all those notes that I'm playing are chimes or harmonics. I'm chiming the, let's say I'm in B flat, so I'll chime the B flat and play the C note, and then play the D note, which creates a scale. And it's every other string. I'm harmonicking one, picking the next string, with the third string. I harmonic this and pick the third string, harmonic the fourth string and pick the second string. And although I didn't tell you what position I got kind of a B flat major 9 here, or major 13 or major 9. So it creates a illusion of a scale. Not all of it is chimes. Some of it's open strings, or not open strings, but fretted strings. And this was laying the first finger right across, barring it across the 5th fret there, which is more like an A minor and an A minor 9. And you come up here on the 1, 2, 3, up here on this, an octave up, of course, and see up here, it's where you start the harmonics. Any chord that you do down here, you come up an octave up and do it, start it here, just like if you were octave up there. So I'm chiming this. And by the way, I'm picking it with my thumb and chiming here while this finger is free, and it's with the fingernail of it. I'm picking the note, a fretted string. And then you get. And shoot, where am I? That's kind of a ninth chord with a flat 5, I guess. Yeah, a D flat, a D sharp 9 flat 5 with an A bass on top, and I'm actually barring from here on down and playing the F note there, C note, the F sharp, and the C sharp A down here, and see, it's kind of cool. I don't know if you could find that time to do that in a country song. I don't think it would be playing chords like that, but in a jazz song, it'd be pretty cool. But it's cool when you get these things flowing, like. You know, it's really neat. I thought I'd talk about studio stuff for a little while, you know, since that's mainly my gig. And a lot of guys, I get some calls from guys that have aspirations of being studio players. And a lot of them are going, well, what do you use in the studio? What kind of equipment? I mean, if I was to come into a studio, what would I bring? When do you run stereo? When do you go mono and all that stuff? Well, here's what I got a lot of stuff that I bring in the studio, and I mean, a guy doesn't need all this stuff, but this stuff has accumulated over time in this rack, and I've got a system worked out here where a sound tech, Dave Wilkerson, put this all together for me. He works at Techstar here in town in Nashville, and basically he's got these racks fixed up to where I can interface. This is my effects rack right here, and I've got your basic. I got a couple preamps in there, you know, right here, and I've got a mixer, and then I've got an Eventide ultra harmonizer and all that for chorus. And so, you know, I'm not a real big digital guy that I mean, I don't like a lot of effects on a guitar. I don't like to alter the guitar sound too much. But you know, there are some producers in town that really want the stereo and all the bells and whistles and stuff like that. And so therefore I got this, and I've got kind of a mix between the old and the new here. I've got, you know, this rack over here. It's got all the, you know, the state-of-the-art stuff, and then over here I've got an amp rack built. Basically, I've had a lot of different amp heads sitting around that I just didn't want to dig out of the cases, and I liked them, but I was just too lazy to get them out of the studio. And they all got have different characteristics. So I had them all put into one rack here. I've got, as you can see, I've got an old Silverface Twin head, the chassis pulled out and put in here, and I've got that running into a load box right here, which bumps it down where I can run it through my rack. And it has an EQ and, you know, an active EQ here. And for some reason, this amp with this really sounds cool. And this is a load box or speaker emulator. And I'll run that through my effects rack out to this power amp down here, this Egnator power amps down here, and out to the speakers. And I get more of a rawer amp sound out of it, as opposed to using preamps, you know, with small preamp tubes in it. I get the big tube sound going through my rack, and I get it stereo. Or I've got it rigged up to where, and I've got, as you can see down here in this drawer, I've got foot pedals, and these foot pedals, I got the basic, the compressor, distortion, and I got a little tremolo on there, you know, that's, yeah, it's, you know, that I can reach down here and make it come on a little better. You know, and I got it all down here controlled. It's controlled through this GCX controller. all my amps are right here on this, and I can switch on to different amp heads, and this basically controls the effects rack over here. I can flip on effects. So I've got that, and this is kind of, and I can bypass this effects rack and just go mono, which I do a lot of times for solo. I don't have to run through digital, you know, stuff. I can go pure out from the amps into to my right directly to the speaker cabinets over here, which you can see over here. I've got Egnater. They're vintage selections in there. They're loaded up with 2 in each box here, and I run that stereo. And basically, what I can tell the guys that are wanting a little knowledge on studio, you don't need all this stuff, but it's good to have probably a chorus, a stereo chorus, and maybe a delay, or yeah, it's definitely a delay and a distortion. And you want to have a good assorted collection of guitars. You want to have a Strat. You know, right here I got a Joe Glazer Strat here that he built for me. Guy, great, well-renowned guitar builder in town here. And when I'm in the studio and we you know, the guy, the producer puts up a song, and I may go down with the rhythm parts, you know, and that's, I may use it. I'll probably use on some of it. Depends on the song. If it's kind of pop sounding thing, I'll probably go stereo, and I'll use a little chorus. I'll kick on a chorus here, you know, get a nice, and I'll kind of set the delays in tempo. I got the panning delays on here, and I'll set them in tempo a little bit. You know. Also, for background things, it's kind of cool. You can do little effects with the whammy bar, you know, and kind of treat it as, you know, on ballads, I'll go over here and I'll turn up a little delay, which gives it a nice illusion. So I might use that for textures on a ballad or something. But when I'm, you know, and then I may approach a solo without the effects. I may do a couple switches back here and just use amps for solo. Good fat mono sound for solo with no effects. And a lot of times, if I'm using, you know, the way Nashville music's going right now, a lot of it's just basic garage band. You know, it's almost a raw approach. I may plug, if I use a Telecaster, I'll plug in this little deluxe here over here and just honk, you know, crank it up and honk through it. And or I use the Twin for a little cleaner, fatter sound. And I use that PV 50 watt there, you know, through a big cabinet I've got, you know, that I bring in, a full 412s. And anyway, you know, if you know, like a producer comes up with a song, he said, hey, here's a kind of an R&B song. He says, what would you use on that? Well, I might use a 335, a real mellow sound. And, you know, a guy, one of my mentors in studio work, you know, some Reggie Young, has always got some cool, you know, a guy that played a lot from Memphis. He played in Muscle Shoals. I'm sure all the guitar players are familiar with him. Using those little fifths and slides and fourths and all that. And let's say the producer says, "Here's a song," and I may grab it, or I may grab a Strat, you know, too, or for if I'm wanting to do some of these Amos Garrett type bends. Now, I've got a little heavy delay on there. That's too much. I used that when I was using those swells and stuff. I forgot to turn it down. But I'll just play a song on my Strat with a front pickup that might be, you know, that I might use in a studio on an R&B type country song or something. So let me grab this. Let me grab that Strat over there and try that if it's an older one. And I'll unplug this. And let me get set up for that. Let me get the guys out here and we'll do a little tune. Okay, well, I got the old jazz box out here now. I got the Howard Roberts Jazz Guitar Special box here. It's a real sweet sound I got from Gibson a while back. And I use this for a lot of front pickup for a lot of nice, cool, mellow stuff. As you see, it's got a great real pretty sound there. Thank you. It's you know, and the jazz Western swing is what I first listened to. Kind of caught my ear. I was listening to Ernest Tubb and the Texas Troubadours. I think my dad had albums. My dad was a big Ernest Tubb fan, and he had all these great albums. And Ernest Tubb was really cool because he'd let the band kind of play and just have fun and jam, and he would get off and he'd come up and sing a couple things. But even on the albums, they even got a couple instrumentals on the albums, and it was really cool. It really caught my ear. And then I listening to steel guitar, Buddy Emmons, all those interesting notes grouped together really caught my ear. It was really cool and soulful. And I mentioned earlier Roy Nichols. Roy Nichols was a great Western swing player, jazz player, which he incorporated some of that jazz stuff into his chicken picking, which we kind of did earlier. And Western swing is such a cool field. Not many musicians listen to Western swing. It's kind of a big band, country hillbilly, they call it, jazz stuff. Like if you were playing country, by the way, in G or something, and you were playing a rhythm, you're playing maybe a rhythm like, you know, play the old standard major chords. Where in swing, you might play double time rhythm, or you might go, you know, play 6 chords with, you know, this has a dominant 7 on it. You might go, you know, like that. So you got a little bit of cooler notes in there, and it's a little bluesier, and the swing type chords and licks all kind of rotate around 6 chords, you know, 9 chords, augmented chords, and diminished chords, you know, all that kind of stuff. And you just kind of, when I started playing, I mean, I don't read music that well, although I'm doing a lot of sessions. I mean, I read enough to get by, but I mean, I don't fly through. I'm not a great sight reader, so a lot of time, when I first started learning jazz, I would sort out interesting notes. Like, if I was in C here, I'd think, well, I'd pick out all the interesting notes. You know, there's a major scale, you know, pretty diatonic, but then I would take that and sort out what's some cool notes in you know, I could do, you know, flat 5s and minor 3rds, sus4. So there, and you would take those interesting notes, and in Western swing, it seemed like when you would play or solo through Western swing, you would take these interesting notes and make little melodies out of them. You know, like if you're going, you know, it's got, I don't know what, I guess it's Western swing. But see how I went from if I'm in C, I went, you know, that's a Western swing thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. So I'm kind of doing a little trill there, a little triplet. I'm taking advantage of that little half step down thing. 3. See, that's real Western swing. It's real melodic, and it's got a lot of interesting notes in there, little ear twisters. And I might think, like this. I might go. Now if I play going into a 7 chord, or a sus, or a G11, or whatever, I might use a scale. If I'm going from a G7 to a C, I might start off like 1. See, what would I do? See, and then with the C. And I use a lot of half step, I think, in diminished and half steps. So I these are a little built around chromatic things. It goes, and I'm thinking in a G sus 413 there, or whatever, or if you want to call it a F major 7 over G up here in octave. So I'm kind of looking at these things in positions, which is that's going to be a natural 7, chromatic from the, from G, F major 7. Now that's a 7, which I've come up an octave. It's a little passing, little lick in between to link the. To go to C, G to C, or whatever. That's a little thing there. Let me see. Western swing. I listen to Johnny Gimbel a lot too, by the way. Johnny Gimbel has some really cool things, and I think it's because he played them on the mandolin or electric mandolin, and the way the mandolin's tuned like a fiddle, really made some cool licks. And on guitar they kind of finger twisters. But like if you were an A, he would use, that's real Western swing. It's going through 6 chords. And I'm thinking of these kind of in triads. I'm thinking, so all the interesting notes in there. You got so many. You got. That just go on and on. But I'm thinking, wow, there's an interesting note. I mean, and you can play chromatic for a while. Chromatic always works for jazz. You can kind of link scales together. And instead of playing scales pretty much, I don't really play a lot of scales. I mean, I don't really link scales together. I'm not that. I mean, I just got pretty much my own scales. I mean, I don't follow a neat scale pattern or the legit scale pattern. But I'm thinking I got to get from point A to point B. So if I'm, I might start here. Now I kind of went to 11 chord there. See, that's cool. 11 chords, or like a G over A is what I'm playing there. I think of all the way up the neck. How can I play these arpeggio scales? What I'm doing? How would they work all the way up the neck? So I'm thinking in positions, how far you want to go. So I got pretty much. So you got some down here, up here, So Anyway, you know, I'm going from all over here. And these are all, these arpeggio scales that I use are, you know, I'm going up here now. I got up here the 2 octaves up or whatever it is. You know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, see, you can see right there I hit a passing chord, which I might be going to D. I was coming from a... So I might go... You know, see, this is filled with interesting notes. So I'll be playing, if I was playing like a little chord change like... You know, there's so much you could use here. See, so I went... So I'm playing a diminished there. A B diminished. So I'm in the key of G. So I go, I'm thinking B diminished, A minor 9, or and then I'm back to a diminished and then G. So it's like, and then there's a little, that's a little cool thing you can use through the chords. You can even play the diminished through, you know, straight major chords, you know. You know, it's just cool. Those interesting notes still work through there. And if we were going, let's see. Oh, let me go back on what I was thinking of. Johnny Gimbel had these cool little... He had those little hammer-on chromatic things. They're real cool. Like if you're in G, like, you know... He would get those... Be like 1, 2, 1, 2. He would use it. You know, I don't know if that's... But he would use these little hammer, which would hammer off to the flat 5. And when I'm playing through that G, I'm kind of thinking in D minor. And so, or a G6. See, it's almost, it could be a D minor scale too. And then I'm coming down to the G. See, all that. When I was a kid, I didn't know much about Hank Garland until I got to Nashville, and I learned a lot about Hank. And what a fluid, great player he was. And he would come from a Western swing, but his went into bebop a little more. Because a lot of guys like George Benson and, well, mainly George, would listen to Hank. Was one of the guys he listened to, and Hank would get a little more outside, you know, get some real outside stuff. Let's see. You know, he might see like that. I'm starting thinking a half step up, which is kind of outside. Now I'm thinking of like that. I'm putting a passing chord of, so it kind of makes it a little more outside, and there's a little bit of chromaticism in there. You know, it's just little outside notes, and that makes it more bebop, I think, which I think what separates Western swing is swing stick to more of melodic things, more diminished, augmented scales, you know, those kind of things, augmented, diminished scales. You know, like that. So I think, and I listened to George Benson a lot, Pat Martino. Those guys really played some. I like Martino's Latin influences, or his Latin phrasing, and George Benson's soulful jazz approach. George had some nice, add some bluesy things to jazz. He'd get kind of outside. He might throw in some of these. He might throw in a lot of chromatic. But he'd get to he'd come out more of a blues thing. He would get on that pentatonic blues scale, or he might throw some chromaticisms in there, like that. And also, I guess George or somebody, George would bring more of a pop approach to music. Now I'm getting off the swing thing. I know I've kind of segued into this, but I was just kind of showing you the differences of the two, where jazz would, or pop jazz would have more of a funky rhythm to him. And he might play more of like a soul singer on that instead of playing. So you got more syncopated things in pop jazz. My style of picking single string, I'm using, if you notice these fake fingernails, what I said earlier, I use these and I rotate these back and forth. Instead of using a pick for single string, I go like thumb, ring, thumb, middle finger, and I do that with a little wrist action. It gives me a lot of speed, and also I can do arpeggios real easy, and I can get from one string to the other. Where I was like George Benson or something would, twist his pick up where he could, when he came up on, he'd get to the next string faster. So it's real easy for me to play fast, really. So anyway, I'm going to get off the jazz swing thing. I mean, hopefully this made sense to you, and you guys can work on that. And if you come up with some new things, you can show me, because it's definitely a field that's you never quit learning on. I mean, there's so much to learn. You can listen to all kinds of jazz guys. And I'm just going to get out of here now.